spread and just sort of what to do with this game is how to quantify it has to be called an advantage the Broncos have with the rest and home field, and even that the game is Saturday afternoon for the Bills, 2:30, 6:30, 2:30 local, but whatever. Like the toll physically that the Jacksonville game took and having to sort of push mostly toward the end of the season. I don't know what to do with that numerically.
Altitude too.
Altitude, all of it, all those intangibles.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to that. Certainly, the Broncos getting the rest was big, and getting Dre Greenlaw back, I think, is vital, especially with what it is that it looks like we're going to be facing against the Bills here. You guys, wide receiver room perilously thin at this point. Probably figured to be in a lot of 12 personnel in that game, and the Broncos have been susceptible on the ground and to the tight end this year. So certainly getting Greenlaw back helps. But there's a lot of that. I mean, Josh Allen's played at altitude before. He played up the road at Wyoming, which is about 2,000 feet higher than Denver. So he understands the psychology of it. I don't think anything prepares you for it if you haven't done it before. But the Bills have most of those guys have played at altitude at one point or another, and you just got to find a way to keep yourself, in the fourth quarter when you're huffing and puffing, you got to find a way to keep yourself calm and drawing the maximum amount of oxygen you can.
We do a weekly thing and have for many years during football season with former Bills center Eric Wood. He's currently the color analyst on the radio broadcast here on our station, Benjamin, and he told us on Monday his experience was dry mouth. And I had never heard that before about the thin air. I mean, I don't have any experience competing athletically in thin air, so I have no idea. But I had never heard that specifically. I just always thought it's hard to breathe. But he said, yeah, you get like, I said, is it like you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're afraid to open your mouth? You feel like something's going to rip apart. You're so dry and stuck. He said, yeah, it's kind of like that.
He's not wrong. That is probably a hidden component of it as well. I moved out here back in 2012 from Tampa, and it was an adjustment going from the humidity and sea level to how dry and thin the air is out here. And it took me a while to get used to it. I mean, a good 6 months to get used to it. And it comes on quick. Like that you don't realize walking up 3 flights of stairs will get you winded, even if you're in reasonably good shape before you do it. So I would say both those things are true, and hydration, yeah. Big part of that probably goes under-recognized relative to just the altitude itself.
That is cutting close to home in my current state, walking upstairs, even here. So let's not take that on.
Yeah, let's move along. What are the Bills in for here? What are they getting in this Broncos team? I mean, they're the 1 seed. They've had the week off. Mike already mentioned the rest that they've been afforded. How good is this team? Like, Are they a team? I mean, obviously they earned the 1 seed, but are they 1 seed worthy objectively when you look at them? If you know what I mean.
Well, that's a real question, man. We got the 1 seed. We're sitting around here locally like, what, is this team any good? We really don't know. Yeah. It's been fascinating to watch all year. One thing I will say is they're resilient. They found ways to dig themselves out of holes all year, and that's usually the hallmark of a good team. Getting yourself out in that hole in the first place, though, could be a bit of a problem. What you're getting here is a team. It's very good defensively. A little bit light in the defensive front seven, but good defensively. They play mostly single high. They want to get after the quarterback. They're going to blitz. They're going to send guys. They want to get after the quarterback. You're going to find that you get on third down is when they tend to get kind of creative a little bit with the defense. I mean, it's pretty much just cover one robber on first and second down. Third down, you get interesting because, what you're going to see, you'll probably see Surtain lined up on one of the tight ends on third down. You'll probably see them bring on Jahdae Barron, who's been another guy lined up on the other tight end if you bring 2 tight ends. And you'll see Riley Moss and Abrams Drain out there on receivers. They tend to get a little creative on those downs with how they do things. Offensively, it's been a roller coaster. Bo Nix has shown tantalizing flashes at times, but he oftentimes doesn't let the play develop. He gets rid of it too quickly in order to not take sacks. A lot of stuff around the line of scrimmage. The run game was carrying this football team, the first half of the season. And then J.K. Dobbins went down, and they've really struggled to run the football since then. R.J. Harvey, the draft pick, catches the ball well out of the backfield, but doesn't really run very well and with good instincts. Jaleel McLaughlin, probably their best running back right now, and they barely use him. And then, of course, Sean Payton. You never know if he's going to be patient enough with the run game or if he's going to do like he did last year in the playoffs and spiral and then all of a sudden start throwing the ball and throwing into the teeth of that defense there and losing the game. And so I think that's the question. The question isn't really the defense. The question is the offense. Can they do anything or can they do enough? And that's really where this whole game, I think, rests.
Denver, now this also was like what happened last week where the line flipped. You mentioned it, Benjamin. Denver today, a 1.5-point favorite after the Bills opened as that earlier in the week. With Benjamin Allbright here on WGR. Let me just follow up with you on R.J. Harvey. I play a lot of fantasy football, and he was one of these very exciting rookies with Denver. This is receivers too, but even despite a second-round pick on Harvey, it's just all. Even when Dobbins goes out, it's these other guys. You mentioned at least one of them. Can he be somebody, even like compared to Etienne last week for Jacksonville, who maybe is more of a bell cow type, I guess? Can Harvey be somebody that sort of is a problem for the Bills down to down? Or is it more just like if he hits an explosive, then they win that matchup. If he doesn't, they don't?
I think it's more the latter. I mean, he's far from a bell cow back. He's only been a running back for a few years. He was a quarterback coming out of high school and even his first year or two in college before he converted positions. And he just doesn't have a natural feel running the ball. If you want a comparison, his skill set is a lot closer to Reggie Bush than anything else. It's more of a receiver who plays some running back kind of thing. He's an excellent pass catcher. Can pass protect a little bit, but he's a little undersized for that. And he just does not run the ball with great instincts. And really, if he's going to hit you with an explosive, it's one of those plays where they get you sucked up inside. He just beats you to the edge. He tries to bounce things outside too much. Just does not have a natural feel for running the football yet, and you'll kind of see it. It's one of those things where he'll get 15 carries, 14 of which will be for 2 yards or less, and then one of them will be fairly explosive, and that's kind of how it goes. And there's a lot of sentiment around here in Denver that they wish they would dial back his carries and give some of those to Jaleel McLaughlin, who, while undersized himself, has a much more natural feel for running the football.
Interesting, really. Okay. This is where that second level aspect, though, of any team the Bills play, that's where the Bills are really maybe kind of bad. Like they have, even last week, Jacksonville lost the game, but they ran the ball great. And if anybody gets out, you saw it with Bijan, Achane, Henderson. I'm sure there were others this year against the Bills. Like this is maybe their weakest aspect of their defense. So It makes me kind of like Harvey in this game, even if I get exactly what you just laid out, where there's one where he's out in the open, or even, maybe it's better than 1 in 15 carries, something like that. I think Denver probably would want to find out.
Yeah, and he's going to get 6 to 8 touches in the pass game relative to, on top of that as well. They'll run some screens. They'll put him on some choice routes, things like that. They'll put the ball in his hands. The question is just, like I said, behind the line of scrimmage. He's hesitant. He doesn't like to take it in between the tackles. He'll bounce it outside, and if you string the play out, you can get to him. I saw some of those Jacksonville runs. I was watching that game, and you look at that, and you're like, okay, this looks exploitable next week. But then, I look back at the tape on our run game, and A, we don't stick with it, and then B, when we do, the instincts just aren't there. I mean, last year the plan going into Buffalo was run the ball a bunch, keep the game tight, and have a chance late on. And then Sean Payton spiraled mid-game and started, throwing the ball over the yard and got us in trouble, and you saw where it went. You even saw the altercation on the sideline where Vance Joseph was trying to calm him down and get him back to the game plan. And so that's the thing. I just don't think there's a lot of faith here in Sean Payton sticking with the run game when he's got to be the smartest guy in the room throwing it all over the yard. I mean, Bo Nix led the NFL in passing attempts this year, which is an absurd thing if you've ever watched this offense.
They also did a thing right before that game last year, by the way, where they who came out? Tyler Bidet went into the lineup sort of like last minute, and who came out?
Audric Estime, who's no longer here. Bidet, who's the third down back here, mostly the pass pro guy. You'll see plenty of him as well on third downs. He'll get a few touches here or there, but he's mostly just a pass protection back, while Harvey and McLaughlin will get most of the touches and targets.
How about the receiving corps? Is there? Cortland Sutton, everybody knows the name. Most football fans know the top 3 receivers on this team. Franklin, Evan Ingram, the tight end, is third on the team in receptions as well. Who is there a guy that you got to really be worried about, or is it closer to what the Bills have had all year? I know they're severely, almost calamitously banged up now, but is it more like an everybody eats thing in Denver?
Kind of. I mean, you'll see Sutton will get the most targets in most cases, simply because he's the X receiver, and that's just the way the offense is designed. You go back and look at Peyton in New Orleans and what Colston or Michael Thomas did, and, Sutton's in that role. Franklin plays that backside Z. He's got some drops issues. He doesn't catch the ball well over his shoulders, kind of needs the numbers flashed back toward the quarterback to make plays. And you'll see him get some work on second down, that kind of stuff, maybe some sideline shots. The real head-scratchers here is Marvin Mims, who's by far the most explosive athlete on this offense, and they just don't ever use him. They forgot about him for 3/4 of the season last year. Then he was a revelation at the end of the year. They basically not used him this year. And he really, is a guy that we're hoping they just kept on bubble wrap for this kind of scenario. The other guy to watch is Pat Bryant, the rookie. He's got more and more work before he got a concussion, I believe, against the Jaguars. And so he's a guy who started to get some third down work and kind of be a guy who factors in there. Little Jordan Humphrey gets a little bit here or there, but he's mostly in there to block as the Broncos will spam you with those wide receiver screens all game, trying to get your safeties to bite down.
That's going to be a wide receiver screen off because the Bills love that tunnel screen to Shakir is a play that's maddening to the fan base. It can be effective. I'm sure the Broncos can be effective doing it too, but when it doesn't work, it feels like such a give up, that's
right. And Joe Brady got that from Sean Payton when he was with him, so that's not surprising.
Right.
Yeah, at least this year, I don't think I've been deluged with Sean Payton talking up Marvin Mims and then not using him at all, unlike last year when he was always doing that.
You mentioned breezing through both sides of the ball at the outset of this conversation. You might see Surtain on tight ends on third down. I remember saying this last year when the Broncos were coming here to play the Bills in the wild card round that one of this defense's superpowers is the defensive player of the year, a corner that can just take your best guy away. The Bills don't really have a best guy. Or is that something they do with him regardless of opponent, Surtain on a tight end on third downs?
It's not regardless of opponent, but if you've got an upper tier tight end that, or somebody you go to a lot, they'll do that. They just try to take away what you do the most.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, when the Raiders would come out in 12 personnel with Bowers and Mayer, what you'd end up having is Jahdae Barron and Pat Surtain on those two instead of on the receivers, in those cases. Now, if you've got receivers out there like Chase or Higgins, you're the Bengals, they'll leave Surtain out there on those receivers. Right. But on third down, they're just trying to take away what you do the most. And the Broncos are exploitable against the tight end when they don't do that. So I suspect you're going to see Surtain on the primary tight end, whether it's Kincaid or Knox. You're going to see him on them quite a bit.
A few minutes left here with Benjamin Allbright. You've been around the league a long time. What is your current position, or maybe it's been your position for a long time, on Josh Allen and what he is and has done in the playoffs? For a while there, we felt like we were fending off takes about how turnovers, right, were part of his reputation, and this is one reason why the Bills haven't had more playoff success, and we kind of pointed to the stats, not actually. So then last week was really one of those Superman kind of games. How do you see it? I mean, it's 3 road games and then the Super Bowl if he and the Bills get there, which is a huge task. And everything else that we've talked about already, going to Denver, short week, and all of it. How do you see Allen and kind of his status in the league at this point?
Well, there's a lot of interest in Allen here locally for several reasons. One, I played up the road at Wyoming, about an hour away. And so people got to see him in college. They've kind of watched his growth. When he came out, he was such a project. And then, of course, honestly, the year that he was drafted, there was a groundswell of maybe we should draft him. And the organization was scared off because the Paxton Lynch thing hadn't worked out. And I will tell you that the Bills actually had a deal in place with the Broncos to trade up to get Josh Allen. The Broncos wound up having Bradley Chubb fall in their lap, a player they valued. So they nixed that trade and took Chubb. And then that wound up, you guys had to trade up with, I believe it was Tampa that year.
Correct.
To get Allen. Watching his growth has been fun. Watching his growth from afar has been fun. I think he's a guy that's that's an all-purpose weapon, and when you view him through that lens more so than the traditional pocket passer and all that, then you kind of get a better picture. There's going to be moments where you live and die by, just like with Lamar Jackson. There's going to be moments where you live and die by what he does. But the path is paved this year. If you get through Denver, I mean, you don't have a Burrow, you don't have a Mahomes. This is the path is paved for Buffalo this year, and I think with that defense playing the way they did last week, they can keep that up, and Cook and Allen can carry you a long ways. I picked Buffalo to go to the Super Bowl in the preseason, and I think I'm probably going to be riding with that.
Before you go, so all these coaching vacancies, we still have 9. It's interesting to me that nobody's been hired yet. Maybe it's like the influx of Harbaugh and Tomlin late in the running, and maybe teams expected that, or that possibility at least. Do you have a couple of fits that you like, coach and team?
Sure. I believe that Harbaugh's going to wind up at the New York Giants. He may flirt with that Atlanta job, but I think he winds up with the Giants. We'll see how that shakes out. Over in Baltimore, Jesse Minter's going to get a lot of consideration. Cliff Kingsbury is potentially his offensive coordinator, something to look for there. In Atlanta, I think Harbaugh's everybody's primary, and I think that one Atlanta comes down to Stefanski versus Clint Kubiak. Rick Smith, who was Kubiak's father, is general manager down in Houston. He works for Sportsology. He's on the search firm there in Atlanta, so something to keep your eye on there. Down in Miami, you're probably looking at either Hafley or Minter. We'll see. There's a couple other guys on the fringe in that search, so we'll see how that one shakes out. Arizona, Vance Joseph's the leader in the clubhouse there. That job is probably the last one that gets done as they're waiting on everybody else. The Raiders, they're in play for Flores. They're in play for Vance Joseph. There's a couple others there, but I think those are the two primaries. Cleveland, Jim Schwartz is the leader in the clubhouse, but they're kind of looking at some of these young offensive guys, and maybe Mike McDaniel gets a second shot. Grant Udinsky there, not 100% sure. And then of course we kind of know how Pittsburgh hires. They tend to hire young defensive-minded guys that they can keep around a while. So all those guys, Chris Shula, who'd be in play in Miami as well, Flores, Robert Saleh, those kind of guys, they're all going to be in play there in Pittsburgh.
Do you think Brian Daboll finds a chair, or do you think he's got to step back and be a coordinator and maybe reestablish if he ever gets another shot at a head coaching gig?
Yeah, I believe he's going to be an OC, whether that's for maybe a Flores over there with the Raiders or maybe in Philadelphia, believe it or not. I think he's going to be a coordinator this cycle and try to do that coaching rehab thing and reestablish himself. He made some mistakes as a head coach with his temper, but I'll tell you, he's a great guy. Matter of fact, the first thing John Harbaugh did was reach out to him about the New York Giants job, and he did nothing but recommend the organization and the job to Harbaugh as a class act from a guy who just got fired by that organization.
Still has a house here. Do you have a Joe Brady take, Benjamin?
I guess I like Joe, I guess. I don't see what the hubbub is as far as head coaching. And I've had over the years, some kind of eye rolls at some of the tactical mistakes I think that he's made. But, I'm a dork with a microphone and not coaching in the league. So, what do I know when it comes down to it versus his situation? I think Joe's a smart football guy. I just think that the hype on him, especially early, was a bit much. I think he'll get a head coaching opportunity someday. I don't think it'll be this cycle.
Okay. Thanks for all your time today, Benjamin. Any questions for us? We don't want to be rude and just pepper you and not give you a chance to ask a question.
Oh, no, not at all. You guys have a good one. I heard you guys are going to have Sal on later. Tell Sal I said hey.
Okay.
Will do, man. All
Anything
right.
for Paul Hamilton, our Sabres reporter at 6:30? Not this time.
All
Iowa
right.
State?
See you, Ben.
Yeah. We'll start talking to Avs and Sabres.
Why not? We'll take it. Thank you, Benjamin.
No worries. Take care, guys.
Okay. Benjamin Allbright at Allbright NFL. 2 L's in Allbright. 1 in NFL.
And none in Benjamin.
No, his first name is not a part of the Twitter handle. I mean, asked and answered on coaches. Oh, he ran down everybody.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite follows in the league on the socials. He gets a lot of stuff right. Like I trust that he's not just throwing stuff out there. Like he hears things that always doesn't come through, but like he's just a trustworthy guy to follow, in my opinion.
Can I just whisper to you right now? I did not actually bet Iowa State last night.
Yeah, I didn't.
I said I was doing it.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. I could have, but it wasn't like I was trying to toy with Paul. I just didn't. They got blown out.
They got lost by 21.
They got blown out. Yeah. So, again, Mike Schopp Finances, I'm up.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't
I won.
lose.
That was 20